all-inclusive way. Because when you read this here, it says trust in the Lord. And then it says, there's a little caveat here, with all your hearts. See, the way God wants you to trust in Him is not a partial. It's like, when you feel good, please trust in me. If you're not feeling good, it's okay, I understand. No, God's like, you need to trust in me with all your hearts, whether you feel right, whether you don't feel it. This matter of trust is very inclusive, to the point that when Jesus was asked by a Pharisee in Matthew 22, this word brings me that in Matthew 22, verse 37, it says, a Pharisee was questioning him about what is the greatest commandment, and this is what Jesus says. Jesus gave this response. It says, to love your Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. See that concept of all. He's like those poker players. He wants all or nothing. He wants everything. He's not like, I raise you this. God is like, I'm all in. Are you all in? Mm-hmm. And He shows us that He was all in at the cross. Yes. He said, I'm all in. Yes. So it's not a matter like, oh God, I'm in this situation. No, God is like, I've been there. I've been there for you. And I need you to trust me in all circumstances, in all areas of your life. Sometimes we want to trust God in certain moments, when maybe when we're blessed. It's very easy to trust God when you're blessed. To trust God, if you're going through health situations, it's very easy to trust when you're healthy. Sometimes when you're not feeling good, those are the moments that you have to stand up and say, man, I don't feel like going to church, but I'm going to go. I don't feel like saying, to be godly to somebody, but you have to. Because God wants us to this is an all-inclusive thing, trusting God always, all times. And the opposite of that, what would be the opposite of trusting God in this manner? It kind of gives it away there. What would be the opposite of this in this concept? To trusting yourself. To trusting yourself. And when you trust in yourself, and as it says there, and lean not on your own understanding, when you trust in yourself, this word lean also has a connotation of rely. Rely or depend. You're relying on yourself. It's all on you. In other words, it's all on you. And there is no worse feeling than that. We talked about working, when you have a project and it's like, sometimes then as you may feel that way, it's all on you. But you know what, when you have a good team, you realize, it's not all on me. People come alongside and it has a good sense. But when you're not on a good team and it's all on you, you feel it. And when you feel it, what does that cause? You start to worry. When you think life is all on you, you got to figure out life is on you. When you have to parent, it's on you. When you have to provide as a father, as a wife, when it's all on you, you start to worry. All that when it's all on you, that is the outcome. You will become a very worrisome person. Some become even fearful because you're relying on yourself. It's all on you. It's all. And this concept of leaning, I love using this word. In Spanish has a connotation that it means like to put your weight on, which is kind of the same concept as lean. Put in your weight on, put in your trust in, you put your weight on something. Like, for example, you guys are sitting on chairs, and if you've seen a chair that is maybe like, rickety and kind of not so, you would be like, I'm not putting I'm not sitting there because it's gonna break and I'm gonna end up on the floor. A couple of years ago we did a missions banquet and I rented some of these plastic chairs. And big dude, he was pretty strong. It wasn't like he was just eating. He was a big dude, and I, in the back of my head, I was like, I wasn't sure, but we had some of our other bigger chairs that he could have pulled in, but he had a lot of faith. And he sat on one of those, and as the program going on, at some point I just heard, rah! I don't know, you guys don't remember. I remember everything that happens in my programs. And that man fell, and I saw him fall. I just disappeared from the table, just boom. He leaned on something that eventually let him down. And that's the outcome for many of us. When we lean on ourselves, our worries, yes, our problems they're heavy. They are heavy. Don't undermine other people's problems. Sometimes when you hear people, sometimes there are people giving you advice and they're like, oh, that's gonna be okay. And sometimes some people may they kind of minimize your situation. Sometimes that's not good counseling. Just sympathize. It's a bit better. Because it is a heavy matter for that person. And to the point that for us, when it's all on us, not just a chair breaks, but you break. You get to a breaking point, and a lot of people are broken because of their sin, because of their situation, but also not only because of their sin, because they're carrying it all. They're good people that are just a wreck because of the stuff that they're carrying. But the blessing here is that God says, you know what, you can give it to me. He says, trust me.
Amen.
We don't have to live this world. I was looking at a pastor who was talking about this concept, and he says that, when people think that they can just lean on yourself and rely on yourself, that's an orphan spirit. A person that doesn't have a father, a person that doesn't have someone to care for them. That is an orphan spirit. But to have a spirit to understand that we can trust in him, that, we have the spirit and understanding that we have a good father. And it's not just a song, you're a good father. No, that's not just a song, it's a reality. We have someone that we can rely on and that can really, the stuff that brings us worry, the stuff that brings us anxieties, we can give it to him. And for me, this season has been a season of a lot of worries, but then I have to come to myself. I have had to walk this out and say, God, that your will be done. Because sometimes we have expectations. I had a lot of plans, how I wanted to do things. I had expectations, how I want. There's a lot of I there. And then God's like, look, this is my church.
Amen.
And I had to realize it is his church, and the outcome of it is going to be the outcome that he desires. And I've had to understand that I'm only an instrument. Regardless, I've been taking a class that talks about the gifts of the Spirit and all, and it really outlines that how we all are part of a body. Regardless of how important we're all part of it. The member from the leader, we're all part of it. We're all necessary. No one is more important and no one is less important. And I've had to understand that this is his church, and I've got to trust in the outcome that he has. And if my outcome does not line up with God's outcome, you know who's going to win? It's not with me. In the same way as in your life. If you have trust in your life, you've given him all. Because he said they want all your heart, all your mind, if you've given him all, you've got to understand that you've got to trust the outcome of your life to him. Because sometimes you have your own preconceptions of what your life should be. And sometimes it doesn't line up with what God has. And a lot of your frustrations is just that. You're just fighting God at times. And it's not a matter of, you're fighting God and we're fighting God and we're trying to allow, we're leaning on our own understanding of how I want it to be. And God said, don't lean on me. When you don't understand things, look for my understanding of things. Seek me and trust in me. And sometimes for this church plant, I've had to allow, and one of the neat things has been that God has spoken into my life from different people. My wife has been one of those folks, those people that has spoken into, when I've asked, Lord, what do I do? What am I supposed to? And that's the thing, guys, that God will send you the answers many times, and sometimes it's unlikely places. It could be a spouse. My husband say amen. Amen. Come on, guys. Amen. Sometimes they're right. I know we don't like to admit that. Many times. They're right many times. And in my case, that's been very helpful. Seeking good advice, trusting in the Lord. This concept of trust in the Lord, when you look at it, is in previous chapters, it gives you more practical ways of how is that in practice. And I've had to, I had a church planner friend of mine that gave me advice to say, hey, look, you should look into Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I got my own plan. My stuff's ready. I was like, I got this. And then when I got this fell apart, I was like, fine, I'll give them a call. And I called them. They were really nice. It was like, okay, they want to meet. Fine, we'll meet with them. It's like, okay, this thing is going good. So, you know, sometimes God sends the answer through a friend. I was a friend. You know, there's things that I've done here in this church plant that has also been as a result of a good counsel. A friend of mine in Tampa said, hey, you know what? Have a good relationship with the pastor you work with. And that has been a good advice as well, to do that. Hey, she said, hey, run things by him. Because he gave me the advice because he did the opposite way. He just did his stuff, and it just was a disaster between his pastor. And it's like, okay. So we don't have to learn from our own negative experiences. That's a little side comment here. You know, we can definitely learn from others. And God is definitely wanting to lead our life and wanting to show us his ways. But then we go on to this verse here. In all your ways, acknowledge him. And one of the things I learned from this concept is, you know, the concept of acknowledging is to recognize the existence of something. You know, when you understand that, just that word, is to recognize that there's something, you know, for me, it's not just the existence, but the presence. And it's not a something, you know, recognizing the presence of God in my life. And not just that one time, but all the time. It says acknowledge him in all your ways. This concept, this word comes back again, all. In all your ways, acknowledge him. For me, you know, it's acknowledging in every situation. How do I get to trust in God when I do this? When every day I acknowledge, God, you're here. You know, in every situation, God, what it is that how do you want me to do it? You know, sometimes we want to give God the little jobs, we'll handle the big jobs. You know, we want to do it ourselves. And some people are the opposite. They're like, oh, God, you know, you do the big things, I do, you know. No, it's all. No. In all your ways, in all the circumstances of your life, acknowledge him. Acknowledge that he's in the room. I think I was saying that when we were sitting at, Dennis gave me a chance to share a devotion. I kind of gave him a little pre-service, you know, little teaser, gave them, and we were sitting at a table, and it's, you know, acknowledging him, and it's like as if I was sitting at a table and not even acknowledge that Dennis is there. You know, like I'm doing something, and it's like here, and he's got the ability, as the leader of the projects, to do something, and we're like, no, we're going to do this, and he's sitting right there. You know, don't we do that many times in our lives? We plan so many, we do so many things, and God is right there, waiting to be invited, waiting to be included. But sometimes we think we got it, and then there's in those moments that sometimes when the bottom falls out, then we're like Peter, Lord, save me. You know, you don't have to go to God in the moments you're drowning. You know, he was at the table when you were planning too. Mm-hmm. He was at the table when you were planning. You don't have to wait when stuff goes haywire to start calling for him. And it is this concept: acknowledge him, always in all your ways. Acknowledge him, whether it is a big situation or a small situation. Hey, you know what? Well, what it is, you know, whether it is in your prayer life, whether it may look differently for each one of us, but we have to find ways to always include God in all that we do. For me, that has been something that I have to practice even more and more in my own personal life, to acknowledge, Lord, you are. And then there's something that happens. It says that he will make, some version says, and he will straighten your path. This version says, and he will make straight your path. You know, this is, for me, one of the ways that I've illustrated this in the past is, you know, in our lives, there are things in our lives that we've tried to correct, and for whatever reason, we have not been able to. Because this concept here goes back to chapter 2, because Proverbs is an advice to like a young man. It's like from a father to a, so you got to understand the context of what he's talking about. And the context is the context of an advice. And a lot of, and the concepts here in Proverbs is really advice for godly living. It's a concept of to live right before the Lord. And there are things in our life we all have. Paul says, you know, he's been asking the Lord to take away. There was something that Paul was a hindrance that was keeping him from achieving, I don't know what, but he mentioned something that was as an obstacle, something that he kept falling constantly, something that kept being a hindrance for him. And that's why I go with this: make your path straight, or straighten your path. There are things in our life that are crooked. There are things in our life that are not right. And whatever reason, we've tried many times to correct them. But the concept here is that as you acknowledge him and you trust in him, and you acknowledge him, he begins to straighten those things out. There's things that you're trying to fix for yourself, and you have not been able to. Whether it's maybe it's a relationship, maybe you're a Christian spouse, you have an unbelieving spouse. I've seen that a lot, that the spouse would try to fix them so much, and it's like, look, you live right, you honor God, and he says, he will make your path straight. He's the one that's going to straighten the things out. When we have a life that honors God, sometimes there's people that they're always, like, for example, we watch basketball, and this guy's at the free throw line. The guy, he says, I'm not going to miss, I'm not going to miss, I'm not going to miss, I'm not going to miss. You keep saying that, you probably are going to miss. I don't know, but it's just, why are you saying that? But what I'm saying is that sometimes we have that mindset, I'm not going to sin, I'm not going to sin, I'm not going to sin. Or you're saying, I'm not going to do wrong, I'm not going to do wrong, I'm not going to do wrong. And you're trying to yourself get it corrected, but we constantly fail. But if in our mindset, we're acknowledging him, if we live a lifestyle that acknowledges God, that is constantly inviting him, the promise is this, that he's the one that's going to be in control of orchestrating change in your life. Because that's what you ultimately want. This straightening of a path is a change, is a transformation. He's going to work it out. And for me, I've had to live this out myself. The moments, when I'm in the Word, when I'm in prayer, I'm nice to my wife all the time. It just comes natural. I don't have to tell myself when I'm driving in, okay, be nice, be nice. The house is not going to be, don't think the house is going to be fixed. And then I come and I see it, I'm like, and then I just explode. But when I'm in the Word, when I'm in prayer, it don't matter. This house can be upside down and come. He's ruling in my life.
Amen.
He is ruling in my life. And that which was crooked, that attitude, because it's not just like a sinful thing, it just could be your attitude, that bad attitude. Man, God comes and he straightens it out. And I come here with a good attitude because I've been in the Word, because I've acknowledged him in my day. And because remember, this is always. It's not just like on Sundays, on small group days, and on Wednesdays that we have some program. No, it's all the time. If you're in the Word, if you're acknowledging him completely, constantly, you're going to see that he creates a transformation in you, and he begins to straighten the things. Because it's not, like I said, it's not just sinful behavior. It's just a matter of attitude. It's just a matter of outlook. Sometimes some people's outlook is always negative. And it's like, sometimes I don't like, there's some people that I've identified as like, I don't like talking to so-and-so, because they're always negative. It's just like, I brought them the best news I could, and they found something negative in it. I've met some people that's like, I didn't even think about that, so in my understanding and in my relationship with God, I just wanted to bring something that was very simple today, because I'm feeling so blessed and I'm feeling so thankful that I've trusted in this God, in our God. And I'm seeing how in little things and in big things he's responding. He is the promise here that he's not going to fail us. He sang that song, he's not going to fail us. When you trust, he's not going to fail us. And not only is he not going to fail us, he's going to work things out, that stuff that you didn't even have in mind, God's going to begin to straighten and to work out. And I want to extend that challenge to everybody here, to trust God. Guys, this is a path of faith not only for myself and my wife, but for all of us. There are things that are going to be out. Like, for example, you guys came here, there was only this. But thankfully now there's a promise of more. And can you imagine how much more does the Lord has in store for us? If we continue to do this, how much more does he have in store? Not only for this church, because remember, we are the church. You are the church. How much more does God has in store for yourself, for your family. You know, as you trust in God, there are some promises that just get into place. You know, when you trust in the Lord, there's some things that He begins to work. So I just want to encourage you that we have been blessed right now in how our trust has been rewarded. But don't think, oh, Pastor, no, this is all this man of faith. I have my moments. I have my moments where I was like, I don't know. And I know you've had your moments where you're not sure. But if the Lord has spoken in your life, for me, I've heard from the Lord, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to rely on what I see and what I understand. Because sometimes this is what gets us in trouble. When you're relying on what you're able to rationalize. You see this and you're like, nah, it's not going to work. But if this God has said something, if the Lord has spoken a word into your life, it never comes back void. And I'm seeing God putting things into place that I've been amazed. You know, these folks in this church, they don't know me from Adam. I'm just using that word. They don't know me at all. But my God is greater.
Yes.
That's right. My God owns it all.
That's right. Yes.
And, you know, so I just share that to let you know that this has nothing to do with an achievement on my behalf, but it has everything to do with a God that makes a way.
Yes.
And with a God that straightens your path, puts things in place when you least expect it.
Amen.
So I'm just going to leave it here. I don't want to just expound too much. I don't want this to be this long. I don't want to be known as a long preacher. So help me on that. And I pray that, you know, that this word that, you know, short, but that you can take home, that you can take throughout the weeks. We put it on, you know, we're going to be putting it on we have a YouTube channel, that you can just reminisce on it throughout the week. And the trusting, how can you trust in the Lord more this week? How can you acknowledge Him more? How can you create this always, this concept of always acknowledging? How can you create that more in your own ways? Because can you imagine if I'm trusting, but if we're all trusting, there's that concept of exponential. You ever heard that? I don't want to do addition here. I want exponential multiplication, and not just in people, but in the blessings in your life. You know, I want you to have a healthy marriage. I want you to have healthy marriage, healthy marriage, healthy marriage, future marriage, or whatever blessing you're praying for. Healthy marriage, and for you as well. You know, and I also want you to have healthy families. You know, your kids to say, you know what, we trust in God because we remember seeing Dad trust in God. And I want to share that legacy with my children, that as we, you know, hey, Dad, he started at home, remember? And we left that big church and they decided to believe in God. You know, I want that to be part of my legacy, you know, and you begin to think of your own legacy, because it's going to get challenging, but trusting in God is this concept of always is always. It's always. The good times and the bad times. I'm just repeating the beginning of the sermon. That's all. They say good preachers, they repeat themselves. That's what I heard. I'm just doing that. So trusting in God and always. Always. Not only when you feel good, but when the going's not. Because guys, we might have a high right now, but there's challenges that are going to come. And I'm going to need you to be mature. This group here, I haven't invited a lot of guests and things like that because this is the upper house experience in a sense. Yeah. And we're in a house, you know. Should probably do the service in the top tight over there. This is kind of the upper room experience. This is the believers, and I need you to be mature in what you do. There's going to be decisions and things I might do that you may not agree, but hey, give it some time, and things will work out. And because I don't want you also to be in a place where you don't feel fulfilled, joy, or anything. Yeah, we want to get there, but sometimes there's going to be a little bit of work. So just know that. But if we keep our eyes on the prize, the author and perfecter of our faith, as I mentioned like 3 weeks ago, when I talked about Jesus, when we keep our eyes on Him, you know, keep your eyes on Him. Everything that I'm doing is to honor Him. It's no personal preference. Everything you're going to be doing, I pray that you do it with the same concept. Do everything as unto the Lord, and that is unto